So it is Friday night, typically my steak night, but I'm going out for steak tomorrow at a restaurant. So from a butcher shop that I recently purchased some dry aged steaks, also bought a rack of lamb, a domestic rack of lamb from Colorado. It's amazing how much more expensive domestic lamb is from inside the United States than it is to buy a rack of lamb from New Zealand to bring it all the way over here. 3 times the price. It does taste different. There's a difference in taste for sure. I don't think it's that dramatic that it warrants the cost, but it's nice to have every so often. I'm sure the quality of the beef from this butcher is pretty high, so that is what is resting right now. I wanted to have something special with it, so I opened a special wine. So this is a Taurasi Radici, a Mestre Barandino, and it's a Reserve at 2014. These typically come out with a fair bit of age. This I found at a store that sells a lot of Italian wine. This was the only one they had. The price was pretty good for this vintage, and I've had this once before, and it was phenomenally good. It has a little bit, I haven't poured any yet, but I've been decanting it for a bit. This wine typically needs a decant a fair bit to blow off. Sometimes it has a little bit of Brett. Let's see. And it does, but only a little bit. A little bit. So this is the Aglianico grape in the Taurasi region of Italy. I should be starting to break out some of my maps. I did get some of the new maps. There's always new wine maps because there's new regions that pop up around the world. So this has a slightly herbal aroma, like dried herbs, dried tarragon, dried thyme, dried, I wouldn't say rosemary, but thyme and tarragon. It's definitely like a little black cherry raspberry, dried, both dried. Good acidity still, good tannin still. Definitely slightly earthy. You get some of those spices. You get some dried red fruit more than anything. You're not getting this ripe fruit. That could be because this has got a decade on it already. More red fruited than dark fruited. There's a strawberry, some strawberry too. The weight of this wine is going to pair perfectly with the lamb. This, I think, is screaming for food and also longer decant. This is really good. But to me, this is going to be better with food. So that should be a great pairing. And if there's any update on it, or that the food elevates the wine, which I think it will, I'll certainly bring it up. For a special wine, I've had this in my fridge for a really long time, and I only put a Corvin of it in a glass. And to me, what goes best with lamb is Syrah from the Northern Rhone. My favorite part of the Northern Rhone is this little area called Hermitage, and this is an amazing producer from there, Michel Chapoutier. This is Le Pavillon Hermitage 2005. Pretty sure I paid near $300. It retails now for $350. So what does a $350 Syrah taste like? I only did a little of a Corvin. I only Corvined a little bit ago, so probably needs more time in the glass, but more time to decant and breathe. But this is a 2005. It's already got 19 years on it. Hermitage is famously known for being able to age for a really long time. One of my wines I want to try eventually is the Jean-Louis Chave Hermitage, which is in the similar price bracket, 350-ish, if not higher. But if you want the best of an Hermitage Syrah, possibly the most pure expression of Syrah, I believe, is Northern Rhone, but it is very different than Syrah from California, from Washington, from Australia, although the Australian Shiraz, what they call it Shiraz, but it's Syrah, are changing, evolving big time from those big monster 15 to 16% alcohol wines to 13, 14, much more restraint, a little less ripe, a lot more, with the word is really much elegant. There's just great Syrah being made in a lot of places, but my favorite is from Hermitage. Also, Côte-Rôtie, another area very close to Hermitage. They could actually blend in some white wine, which they do oftentimes, to balance out a little bit of the red, and it doesn't actually make the red lighter. Ironically, from what I've read and learned, it makes the red bigger. So Côte-Rôtie could even be a little bit more of a unctuous taste, where Hermitage has, well, there's always a bit of a feral bacon fat meat part to me when I have one of these. I don't know if this one will. It does a little bit, not a lot. This has blackberry, though. Typically with some Syrah, when I dislike them, is when there's too much black pepper. And I don't know what that's a product of, or too much green pepper. So both of those are polarizing to me when I have Syrah. It says like a bizarre slight eucalyptus, which is not what I was expecting out of this at all. There's definitely a cigar box thing going, and that's typically what I get out of a Bordeaux. Maybe it's because this is 19 years old. There's absolutely cigar box and cedar. And there's blackberry. A little bit of a feralness to it, like a meaty, bacony thing, but minimal. It's a very complex aroma. I'm not sure what the percentage of alcohol on this is. I suspect it's going to be up there, I think. The Mastro Barandino, the Rossi is, I think, going to be higher. No, 13.5. So both in a sweet spot for me for ABV. I like between 13 and 14 mostly, for 13 to 14.5. When you get above that, they can tend to be a little heavy and alcoholic. Wow. You can say it's sticker shock. I could say that, but I'd be lying. It's not. Yes, it's expensive. It tastes expensive. But it's an amazing wine. I was a little nervous I might not like it. I bought it so long ago when I was really, really into Syrah. And then I kind of fell out of favor with it. Similar to what happened with Zinfandel. This is incredible. This length is insane. The tannins are there, but so silky, velvety. This wine's extremely velvety. There's no black pepper. There's no green pepper. It's got dark fruit, as well as all the other things I mentioned. That it's not a too meaty or ferally. It's slightly herbal, but minimally. It is. There's, and I know what I really like. There's an olive tamponade thing. I really like dark or black olives. I prefer black olives over all other olives. This has that aroma. That's what I wasn't quite sure about. There's a little bit of that salinity too. And then on the taste, it's there too. The aroma's thrown this little bit of eucalyptus, this little bit of mint, which is very peculiar. God, this wine's amazing. This wine's amazing. So that's easily 5 out of 5. And I only Coravinded a glass of it tonight. Gosh, that is... The weight is perfect. The acidity is perfect. The tannin is velvety. The wine's in a perfect spot, and it's 19 years old. If this is what you got to do to get the best of Syrah, spend some money from a great producer and let it sit for 20 years. Gosh, that is rough. That is rough. But I'm glad I'm trying it. Definitely the best Syrah I've ever had. I can't think of a better Syrah than this that I've ever tasted. Now I'm really thinking that Jean-Louis Chave is something I really want to try, but I'd like to get it with age. If I'm learning something here, I think the age makes a big difference. This is incredible. Definitely one of the best wines I've probably ever had. It's what I've sort of said. You get what you pay for sometimes. And in a place like Hermitage, which isn't trying to make you break the bank, but it's so small, there's very few producers, everything about it's meticulous. It's a tough place to, well, Côte-Rôtie is like even way steeper. Hermitage is on a hill. It's the hill of Hermitage. It's not a lot. It's more of a supply and demand, I think, thing than anything. But this is super high quality. I'm sure there's a $300 Cabernet from the United States that probably tastes like that would be just equal to a $75, but isn't worth the $300. It's just that it's got some prestige. This tastes every bit of its cost, and it's certainly out of my price range. But it was something I wanted to try. Every so often I want the best of a region, and if it's affordable, this is a stretch, I'll go for it, and I obviously did. And this is truly amazing. I'm gonna have another sip just because it's just so good, and I'm gonna let it evolve as I'm eating my lamb and come back to it because it's just that amazing. And I just want to see how it's gonna evolve in the glass. It's amazing about, God, it's so good. It's got a delicious factor too. It's not gobby, unctuous delicious. It's making my mouth water. There's red and black fruits they're between ripe and drying, and it's just adding all this complexity. It's delicious. It's got a delicious and an elegance and a balance. It's got just this near perfection to it in its current state, for sure. So I guess this is also why you age wine. Some wine will evolve and get amazing with age. I have aged some wines that did not get better. They were, I'm going to call it over the hill. So going back to this, I hope this isn't going to be disappointing. I don't think so. This is a great wine, but can it stand up to something as amazing as that? And I don't even know why. I know I've been sitting on this for so long, and I just figured I have this domestic lamb that's very expensive. I probably have a sip or two with it as well. Listen, that's great wine, but it's out of its league here. It's just out of its league. There's just so much. And side to side now, there's a little bit of a cranberry and a sour cherry. Not that that's bad, that is good. This has this ripeness of fruit, dryness of fruit, and all the other components I mentioned. A little bit of the feral, balanced very, very, very well. Okay, time for dinner. That was pretty cool. I still haven't done my top red grapes. I'm going to do that in a video. I'm also going to do a video about tequila. Tequila was one of my first loves, and I've gotten back into it. Not that I ever lost it. I just wasn't drinking it. Now I'm liking it as a little bit of a nightcap. And because bourbon is so out of control expensive for any age statement bourbon, and I'm not going to wax poetic about it, it's absolutely ridiculous and silly and not really worth the money. Meanwhile, I do adore bourbon. It was once the affordable whiskey. Now it's the unaffordable whiskey. Tequila has gone up, but there are some great, great tequilas. So I'll probably do a video on tequila, which will be a little bit off the beaten path here. Not my norm, but I think it'll be interesting. Have a good night.